Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today I'm discussing two short stories that I read recently, endeavoring to give my shortest take on the short stories that I read. The first short story is The Anchorite Wakes by R.S.A. Garcia. And this short story was published in August of 2018 by Clarkesworld magazine, and it appears in issue 143. Simultaneously, the short story was published on the Clarkesworld podcast as well, and that was in August of 2018. I will say from the very beginning, I completely enjoyed The Anchorite Wakes. R.S.A. Garcia is, for me, one of those authors who is able to create their world almost immediately. And I bought in, I suspended all of my disbelief, and I was along for the ride from the beginning. The Anchorite Wakes takes place on a planet far, far in the future, with the descendants of humans who inhabit this planet in a town or a settlement called St. Nicholas. In this story, we have two protagonists. One is, of course, the Anchorite. The other is a little girl called Louisa. An Anchorite is someone who removes themselves from society and goes into seclusion to contemplate, to focus primarily on their spirituality. In this case, our Anchorite is stationed at St. Nicholas. She lives in an Anchorite cell within a church within this town or within this place called St. Nicholas. She stays in her Anchorite cell and she recites prayers, sings hymns almost constantly, and she'll also accept requests for prayers from the parishioners of this particular church. This Anchorite is also able, through a little window in her Anchorite cell, she's able to observe some of the life that goes on outside of her cell, outside of the church, that's happening in the community of St. Nicholas. And it is at this church, in her cell, that the Anchorite comes across Louisa. When we first meet Louisa, she is a little girl, and she's a little girl with a problem. And she asks the Anchorite to help her with her problem. And from here, our story advances. There are some fantastical elements to this story, but it stays within the realm of science fiction because this is a science fiction story. If I have not said this already, I will say that The Anchorite Wakes is a really sort of original, creative, imaginative story. There are no laser fights or spaceships jumping into hyperspace. It is just a very human story that has these fantastical and science fiction elements. I truly enjoyed the story, and I will say within the last 6 months to a year, I've read and or listened to the story at least maybe 3 to 4 times. I've enjoyed it every single time. I really enjoy R.S.A. Garcia. She, I think, is one of those authors to look out for. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed The Anchorite Wakes so much that I looked around to see what else she had written and ran across Lex Talionis. And I know I've mentioned this book in like a book haul before, but this is one of those books that I'm saving for the Space Opera September event that will be happening, hopefully will be happening this year. And so this book is on hold until that event. So if you don't have something already sort of in your hands, I know that this book, or I'm hopeful that this book will at least meet one of the prompts for the event. And so I'm ready for September. The next short story is The Spectrum of Acceptance by Nyla Bright. Spectrum of Acceptance was published by EscapePod, or maybe I should say more specifically, Escape Artist. And EscapePod is the podcast that it was published to. And if I'm not mistaken, it is a EscapePod original. Spectrum of Acceptance is a story about, well, it's quite a few things, I think, wrapped up into one. It is a utopia story. It is a story about identity. It is a story about a young girl coming of age. It is also a story about a clash of cultures. In this future, we have a newly established planet called Acceptance. And of course, we have Earth. And on Acceptance, the government, the society, the cultures, the cities, the homes, everything has been created to accommodate people who are neuroatypical. Ada is a child of immigrants to acceptance. And so she was born on the planet acceptance as a neurotypical person on a world, a planet that has been created to accommodate people who are neuroatypical. Ada is having issues with adjusting. Ada is also a 16-year-old, so Ada is also in that teenage angsty, who am I, where am I, how do I fit in sort of point in her life as well. Ada and her mother are hosting someone who they think or understand to be an immigrant from Earth. It turns out, though, that this person actually isn't an immigrant. He's not trying to immigrate to acceptance. He's an emissary, and he's actually trying to create or establish an embassy so that there can be talks between Earth and acceptance. In meeting John, Ada realizes she's not actually, there's nothing really wrong with her other than she's not atypical. Neurotypical people react to the world more the way she does. And so in John, she finds this person who can think in metaphor, who doesn't have a problem with touch. And so for her, it's this discovery. And so she feels like, okay, I found my people. And then the story goes on from there, because if I tell you anymore, again, it's a short story, and I don't want to I don't want to tell you the story when I need you to go and listen to the story. What I really, really enjoyed about the story is that Nyla Bright creates such a some of the physical architecture that she describes in Ada and her mother's home, some of the social interactions that occur are just really, it's the fish out of water. Ada would be the fish out of water. I guess the John or Fred, I don't know, whatever his name is, he's also clearly a fish out of water. And there are lessons that Ada learns about herself and about the planet of acceptance and about how even though you may be more like one group of people, that does not mean that you don't belong with or can't find your way, can't create a life for yourself, even among people who are different from you. And I found the story interesting because I imagine for people who are neuroatypical, the way Ada finds herself negotiating life on acceptance is the way a lot of people who are on the spectrum find themselves negotiating their existence here. Only in the story, acceptance is a lot more accepting. And as I endeavor to keep this short take, in fact, short, I'll say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like. If you really, really enjoyed the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share this out with anyone you think may enjoy it. Remember to take care of yourself, check in on your loved ones, wear your PPEs, keep your distance, and I'll see you in the next video.